Let me start with this question. How do you guys feel about your individual performance on the pre-course test? Does anybody feel confident that they knew the answers? Some? Yeah, there's an old saying that I really subscribe to. If you know everything, you're good to go. If you know nothing, you're good to go. If you know some things, you're pretty well screwed. I mean, there's no good things in knowing some things, right? Because you can convince yourself of anything after that, right? Believe me, after years of troubleshooting, I know that that's a fact. All right, so let's talk about the C-Series endpoints. Obviously, we're about the product today. However, like I said, my entire adult life has been in test and measurement. Now, I got to make a statement, or actually a question. If you don't know what that box is supposed to do, how in the world can you tell me if it's doing it or not? See what I'm getting at? So as far as I'm concerned, this is purely from the tech geek side of the house. Even though some boxes are far superior to others, if you know the technology, you can figure out the box. I've been a big proponent of that since my smartass days as a teenager. So let's talk about H.323. Who knows H.323? Who feels like they know the basics of it? Kind of. What's that? Okay, what is it? Let's start there. All right, what kind of standard? ITU. What is an ITU standard? What is an ITU? The International Telecommunications Union. This is the body of the UN that governs all of the standardized communications. And that way, that when you're talking over video from, let's say, Guadalajara, you're talking over the exact same video as from Shanghai. The exact same from Chicago as Belize. So we want to make sure that everybody's talking the same technology, otherwise it's very hard to communicate. Right? That's the key. So H.323 was developed by the H.300 committee, and they name them by their own convention. You can find out the convention naming schemes if you go to itu.int. You can figure all that out. But this series of technology is not a protocol. It describes how we accomplish real-time communication over IP. Now, let's take a step back. What's real-time communication? Well, you can't just say it again. There you go. As I say it, you should hear it. As I do it, you should see it. And the same in the opposite direction. What's the difference between real-time communication and, say, datacom? Don't you see an email as it's being sent? No, you don't. That email could have gotten hung up in the servers for 2 hours before you see it. Somebody says, hey, listen, I'm sending you an email. Do you see it? 5 or 6 seconds later, you see it. 5 or 6 seconds is not real time. Real time is, I say, you hear. I do, you see. We're talking maybe 100 milliseconds of acceptable delay. Is everybody okay with that? 0.1 seconds is kind of on the outside of the acceptable delay. So, would an MPEG file, everybody's pulled MPEGs off the internet, right? You know who you are. But everybody's pulled those files off the internet. Is that real time? That's datacom. Somebody pre-recorded it and stored it somewhere. Now, they may stream that information, but even that's not real time. Who's got a DVR or TiVo or something at home? When you order up a movie, does that movie start like that? No. It buffers for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is certainly not real time. You cannot be responsive to that inbound signal. For video, I say it, you hear it, you can respond to it. Does that make sense? All right, I have no idea what's going on with that thing. I apologize for that. And I'll find someone to blame later. What the hell is going on? Probably did nothing, but we'll see. All right. So real-time communication. So you can't do that with a protocol. You can't. There are a lot of things going on in the back end. There's signaling, there's handshaking, there's call parameters, there's the actual media communications. So what H323 describes is a series of protocols. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about probably 2% of what is involved with H323, but it is the main 2%. There are hundreds of protocols defined by H323 saying if you want to do this function, this technology can be used. That way everybody's standard. It's complex, but everybody's standard. So let's start with the basics. As you can see on the screen here, we start with some fundamental equipment in our network. Does anybody have any idea what 4 basic devices, now we can talk about logical devices, but we'll talk about physical devices. What 4 devices are defined as being able to be put on an H323 network? What kind of equipment can you put on an H323 network? Computer? No. I mean, you can, but it's not called a computer. They're all computers, actually. Codec. H323 refers to this as a terminal. And the reason is, it could be a coder-decoder, it could be a soft client, such as Movi. So, a terminal. What else? Gatekeeper. Notice he said gatekeeper, not VCS. Gatekeeper is defined by H.323. A VCS is a Cisco-Tamberg device. Does more than just gatekeeper. So a gatekeeper. What else? There are 2 more. What's that? Nah, come on, you've seen it. Gateway. We talked about them this morning, right? We talked about all these this morning. Gateway. So if you're going to go ISDN to IP, IP to ISDN, gateway is defined by H.323. And the last device, we also talked about this morning. MCU. Multi-point control unit. AKA a bridge. Absolutely. That's not going to come over well on video. The bridge, of course, is to compile a bunch of point-to-point connections into a single conference rather than a bunch of individual point-to-point connections. Now, let me ask you this. Out of those 4 devices that we've just named, does anybody want to take a wild stab at which one is the only mandatory device on an H323 network? Gateway? Gatekeeper? Well, we've almost named everything. That's good. Well, we now have named everything. Are you kidding me? Okay. Okay.